Hello, hello, hello. Hey everyone, BMORE is about to begin the Dummies Cauldron. Make sure y'all come over, sit down, drink some tea, drink some wine. No, some of y'all shouldn't be drinking wine. But come sit down. She's about to start. She's starting off where she left off about Venus, because I know all of y'all want to know about that and what's going on with your career and your life. And she's also doing charts based off of that as well. $20 for a career PDF reading, $50 if you want to get on the phone to talk about it and to talk about your chart. And we already have people going in, so I'm going to shut up now.
All right. So, last week we did a Venus retrograde reading. We were doing generalized readings for people because right now we are in a Venus retrograde and we're in a Venus renewal cycle. I'm still working on the notes for Venus retrograde, and we'll be talking about the traits of Venus and how it is renewed and what that can mean for like people's comfort, money, love, also like the ideas of choices and sentimentality, because Venus is more so of a thing that rules ideas that come from feelings or emotions. So notions that can come from feelings per se. So I still been working on those notes, and those will be posted up on my Patreon. Because I do notice the people that are on Patreon, they really like worksheets. They like doing all of the studying material. So that'll be over on Patreon. And as far as everybody else, like if you are subscribed to my Patreon, you do get a discount on services. But yes, anyone who was missed or didn't get to do their Venus retrograde reading from last week, because last week we had at least like a couple of people who we went through the matter of hours talking about their Venus cycles. And so today we just want to re-up on that, and also any just generalized questions for this time period. We'll be going through that as well. So does anyone have want me to do anything for their Venus retrograde, or do you guys want me to do a reading for the time? And if you do want me to do a reading for your Venus retrograde, which is right now, you just put your birth date, your time, and your location in. If you don't have the time, that's fine. You could just put in your birthday, and you just put on your location, and we'll make do with what we have. Because I know some people don't necessarily um, have their time of birth. Some people just have, location and date of birth. So just let me know if you feel uncomfortable with putting it in the chat. You can let me know, and I'll just put up the number, and my number is also in the description, so it'll go straight to my work number. Hey Topaz. But yeah, if anyone wants me to do their Venus retrograde reading, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about Venus and how it shows up in the chart. But if anyone has any generalized questions, let me know. And yeah, and also I'll be doing I do PDFs, and depending on how extensive it is, it depends on how expensive it is. uh just stepping in. Okay, Topaz, good luck, honey, and be careful traveling. But just let me know. But yeah, so we're in our Venus retrograde period, and it's in the sign of Leo, and this could deal with childhood dynamics. This could deal with wanting parents to be proud of you. It could deal with romance, lovers, socializing, and dealing with like quintessential like heartfelt dynamics. Speaking from the heart, having comfort or things that are heartfelt, and especially with the retrograde period. I know a lot of people see them as like a tough time, but a lot of times it's a period where they, okay, astrologically it's seen as what we call like on the inferior side, which means that it's between the sun and the earth. And so when time periods where it's inferior, this can deal with it being closer to the earth. And when it's retrograding, the earth seems to be moving faster, or the planet is moving slower or moving behind. So this can deal with past issues. It can also deal with issues where one could argue like the planet becomes more integrated in the material realm because it becomes closer to Earth, and so we have to deal with a lot of the planet almost being here, nestled in like more physical dynamics. So like when we have planets like Mars is closer to Earth versus Mercury, which is like closer to the sun. And so when we deal with Mars is like a very hard physical force. And so when planets retrograde, one could argue that they could take on sometimes more Martian or more forceful dynamics. And if we haven't really dealt with themes around Venus, which could deal with, comfort, romance, love, ideas around feelings. So if you're not a person who struggles with feelings and concepts around feelings, um, depending on what signs and zodiacs your Venus is in, it can make it harder for you to understand or rationalize feelings or the sensations and the responses to feelings. And so that's when we struggle with suffering. We struggle with a lot of things. We can even struggle with the ego. And so that's all a Venus moving down what we consider like through the heliacal rising or down into the quote unquote underworld. It forces us, or the descending sign, it forces us to think about these things. It forces us to think about choices and ideas that come from feelings, And I guess on a psychological standpoint, if you look up like ideologues or thought forms, it can also make you think about how you think about ideas or thought forms. So in the stuff I'm going to be typing up about Venus, I also have like some mythology, and I will talk about, I guess you can read about it on a PDF when I post it on Patreon. You can see how like mythologies or ideas around mythologies tell you how Venus responds in our chart and what's the point of Venus. What is the point of, this planet and how we relate to it. I know people love money, people love love, but there are themes that go along with being able to access these things. And ideas around feelings is a very human response. It's a very human dynamic, especially when we get into the dynamics of gender, because Venus is seen as a woman or a female, and it's a very feminine sign. And depending how your relationship to gender is spaced in your chart, how you feel about gender, how you feel about yourself, and even your own identity can even shed even more light into how you're going to respond to your Venus placement, versus like being a man versus being a woman. Is this a woman that I looked for to externalize these things, or am I internalizing these things? Do I take on more Venus things? Also, it can show you dynamics sometimes dealing with your parents, especially doubling down with the zodiac sign. So, last week we had a lot of people talk about it, ended up leaning into dynamics about their mother, or even like dynamics into womanhood and what parts of womanhood or aspects of womanhood that people are attracted to and what they aren't. Venus and Aphrodite are the same goddess, right? Yes, they are. They are the same goddess. Aphrodite or Venus, which one is Roman and one is Greek, it comes from the castration of Uranus by Kronos or Saturn. So Saturn castrates Uranus and then throws the genitals into the sea. And then from it, we get two types of feminine forces. We get Venus and Aphrodite, but we also get the Furies. So these women are really like the Furies. We talking about, very fierce forms of femininity. So that all kind of plays into it as well. Is it Jarelli? Hopefully I said your name right. If I didn't, you could put it in there and I will try to remember to say your name correctly. But hi Jarelli, I'll be doing yours shortly, okay? And welcome, thank you for coming. But yeah, so that is, it springs forth into like a lot of these dynamics. And matter of fact, like people don't even realize like the journey into womanhood, even like, so dark femininity, yes, the Furies, but Aphrodite doesn't necessarily present that. She more so presents love, sensuality, and sexuality, and particularly the part of womanhood that is before the aspects of motherhood. Whereas like the moon, which deals with Diana, this is a type of femininity that's associated with childbirth, a woman who has experiencing birth, children, and stuff like that. So some people do have women problems, but the type of women that we're introducing could be different. So like if you look at someone's chart, you can see if they would be good with women who have no children versus women who have children. And so maybe this person has to examine, like, me dating a woman, whether they're a woman themselves or a man, but again, that matters too in their dynamics. You know, sometimes when people, we see stuff like where people date women or feminine creatures and then they have children, and how it changes because the placements of how their moon is, or the placement that rule womanhood that is associated with childbirth, it does change a lot. So I know some people like, you know, how could you do this? You know, this person had your baby. I don't disagree, you know, because childbirth is a very dangerous thing and people check up out of here all the time. But when I look at the charts, we can examine what does this imply about the family, but also what does this imply about how they socialize with the idea of having a child, having childbirth, which is why sometimes people should be child free, and that might help them a bit better. Which we now see more people talk about dynamics of if they should have children or not have children without some of the social pariah dynamics, because some people really just, when you look at their chart, it's hard for them to do these things, so they should just be responsible. Motherhood would be Hera or Yamaya, correct? Ocean, Aphrodite would be similar. Yeah, so now we're getting into, you see how the archetypes are leaning up. That's right, Topaz. So like long as you get the archetypes correctly, and then even when we talk about like old women or women who are past the point of like childbirth, they would be considered like crone or an older woman, you know. And this really, this would honestly, in certain dynamics, one could argue that this could be even perceived as Lilith, because Lilith, when we get into the planetary glyphs, the glyph changes into what we see as like a retraction, taking away the loss of something. And as we get older, we know like as you mature past a certain age, it's not impossible, because you sometimes see old people have getting pregnant, but on average these women just won't be pregnant, you know. But we also see that where they might need when we see our Liliths, and that's another form of femininity, where you might need maturation, or you have things taken away, or you might have dynamics linked with like older people, older women, older points of femininity. So I'll be writing, I guess, notes on what would be considered like the feminine journey or the feminine archetypes and how people encounter them. And these are, I guess you can like simplify into like, well, we have the masculine journey and the feminine journey. The masculine journey is external, is very physical, hence like the idea of men being so like, let's be real, biologically stronger to deal with the physical journey, whereas women are more receptive, and they pick up on responsive things, because physical strength isn't what would make them the most sharpest for this dynamic. It isn't about being strong to deal with the feminine pursuits. Feminine pursuits don't really have things to do with strength. These are things that are internalized and has to be more discerning and more receptive, you know. So people go through masculine journeys and they go through feminine journeys, and these might be they're very, very different in how people experience them. They're not the same at all. Okay, so Jarelli, I'm putting your stuff in right now. Okay. And again, if you guys have any questions, just let me know and we'll go over it. Um, okay. June 3rd. Okay, so everything is in correctly. So, you know what's interesting about this period for you, Torelli? It's in a very subconscious level, and it's almost in like a hidden or unforeseen level. And so even though you are a Leo rising, it affects your physical body, but it is also like a subconscious level as well. So it's very interesting. You also have like Ketu or the South Node here too. So let me see something. Okay. And I actually think your ascendant is in a degree where, okay, I don't want you to panic because there's a flow how you read charts in astrology, and we're only reading one part. So I don't like when people just read one part and people just get scared and they run off. That's not what this is, but there's a flow to the chart, and this is me explaining the flow. What happens after this will determine, but there is a whole flow, you know. So that's one. I also will specify if I see something that can be kind of traumatizing, I will ask you your permission if I could keep going, because again, I don't know if y'all be having therapists, y'all have pastors, and I don't be liking to again flip up so many aspects in people's charts uh that they may not want to share publicly, because this is still a public platform. So if I see something that could be quite, I guess, intense, or it could possibly elicit, assumingly so, maybe a emotionally upsetting type of dynamic, I'll ask your permission before I proceed. Okay, that's why you see someone after you like, yeah, you can get into all my business, fine. But if I see something that could be quite exposing, you know, I will ask. I'm okay with you sharing what you see. Okay, thank you. Cause I don't know if y'all all have like therapists or someone support systems or proper things to deal with that. Thank you for asking. Yeah, cause sometimes you see messed up stuff in people chart, and you know, sometimes you don't enjoy it, but it is also honesty or truth there. So okay, so it's going to deal with your ascendant, and so it's also like a physical body, a physical response. And so because your ascendant is at a 22 degree of Leo, this is going to deal with um dynamics where you work at your own worst enemy, and also having no freedom to act in your own self-interest. And you can see this very clearly through your chart. There can also be a issue with cruelty, heartlessness, being brutish, destructive, powerful expressions, and also spiritual gifts. Um, you can be very prudent, restrained, very mistrustful, self control, but when angry, very hard to really back in. Love to be in charge, love power, and could also be very good with animals in general. Now, the interesting part of this is because in your chart, um, in the sign of Leo is your south node, or what we consider like the north nodes or the lunar nodes. And so this deals with the dragon's head or tail. And so the dragon's tail is there. So this deals with like things from like your past life, or things that we would have to learn to grow from or move away from, or even channeling points where we have to channel certain things into life paths or more forward motion. So, because your Leo is at a 10 degree, it deals with being penetrating, analytical, travel, many friends, being able to craft, ingenuity, bravery. But there is a thing of danger of robbery and accidental poisonings. And so, those are, I'm not saying that, you know, you'll experience these, but these are things that you probably have experienced before. Now, because your ascendant is set up in these types of ways, and is ruled by Leo, your sun is in Gemini. And so think about the relationship of Gemini to Leo. In general, this will be seen as a sextile. So roughly about two signs away. So there's a way in which you express yourself which goes really well with other physical dynamics. Um, and the thing about Gemini, it's going to focus on things around external knowledge and internal knowledge. And so there could be an issue with these types of things. And so I do think, because technically Leo is a bestial side a sign, and the sun is a and Gemini is considered like a human sign. Um there could be some issues in acting on impulse, that could be overwhelming to people, especially when people can see you, like you be very popular, very courageous, but honestly you can be quite agitating. And if I could be just quite frank, it could seem like you can almost be like a warmonger. I know that sounds weird, but like the pot be stirred, and it's like you be the one leading the steering, you know. So there are certain dynamics where we have to grow and move past this, because it does affect our money, it does affect our love life, and it affects how people see us on an external type of way. um because it's almost like a dynamic where we can be very popular, but I understand, like there's a dynamic where we can get unjustifiable blame, so we feel like we're entitled to react away. So like things that we say, we do, we can get unjustifiable blame. So I feel like it's appropriate for me to respond this way. And I mean, I get you, but because there's a lunar passion, or there's a dynamic of the soul needing to channel in a south node, which is very different, because the moon desires, or the desires of the soul and the desires of the spirit, aren't always the same thing. So what you have is like a desire of the moon in a zodiac sign that rules desires of the sun. So like there are certain things that we feel on an emotional level that could be seen on a spiritual level or a conscientious level. So there are subconscious responses that are very much conscientious, and it could be quite wild, and it could be quite brawlic, to be fair to you. So this could like permit you to have a lot of people being very jealous and irritable, and because of what you do on a subconscious level, on a physical level, it can affect your career, your reputation, school, sense of faith, religion. It can affect your work, and ultimately affect your home life. And a lot of these things can string from very intense and very rough ways of having to exist and survive before. So where Leo is, this can also be tied to dynamics with like your father, tied to dynamics that exist around family and your health, but also dynamics around forms of womanhood, or examples of like femininity, or dynamics of like how we see ourselves and how we see our mothers and stuff like that. So like, to be fair to you, I feel like the warmongering spirit is very strong in your chart, because I do see things why you would need to be a fighter, because you're a fighter, and I see that very strong in your chart, with a lot of emphasis on like defeat, violence, and injury. And so why you would need to, in essence, fight for your life, you know. But I think you should also be careful of like, when is things too far, because like I said, your ascendant is in the sign of Leo, and this is considered an animal sign. So let's do this. So you know when people say I study zoology, or I'm a zoologist or whatever, so the zoo part is kind of like a Greek word, and implies animal. So if you're looking for your zodiac, or zodiac, Z-O, it's kind of implying like animalistic dynamics to the stars. where there's primal dynamics. Now, don't get me wrong. Are there human signs? Are there animal signs? Yes, but Leo is an animal sign. That's why it's ruled by a lion. So there's a lot of, when I look at your chart, I can tell that you can be quite testy. And to be fair to you, I understand why. And I guess this would deal with dynamics of knowing when to start and to stop, because at some point it can have like a very destructive force everywhere, between like work, home, health, reputation, sense of faith. Like it can just start eating up everything. So learning when to start and stop. The good thing about this is, because your thing has like what we consider a grand cross, where it locks in with, you do one thing, it'll trigger everything. If we start making decisions that are more conscientious and less reactive, because I feel like your thing is there's a strong reactive dynamic, it will change everything really quickly. It's not going to take long to see progress. And so for you and your dynamics with people in the world, try to be more mindful. So like if your ascendant is Leo and your sun is in Gemini, Gemini rules mindfulness and parts of the conscientiousness. So it's taking external stimulation, it's taking internal stimulation, and it's trying to balance out what they're trying to do. And I can see that you can have quite overly stimulating things, especially with fire and air. In general, these things do get along. And you also have like an air sign moon, but there can be some overstimulation. Try to think through things as much as possible, because I can also see that there's a strong thing of you reacting on a very responsive, intensive dynamic. And because you also, I see you have like a Libra moon, I'm just going to throw this in because Libra moons tend to have an issue with making a decision or having emotional responses. And I feel like you guys kind of flip flop a little bit. And I would suggest you for emotions to take your time and see how you feel. Take your time and see how you feel. Don't just necessarily jump into stuff. If you have a feeling, or you feel like you feel like something might come out of this, I would like you to take your time, because you do give people that, I've seen y'all give people whiplash and they just be looking like, what? Because the last time I talked to you it was this, and now I'm talking to you this is this. So it can get a big thing of indecision, and so people can see you, not only do they see you as a leader, but sometimes they can see you as like a unreliable leader. For some reason, a lot of people are surprised when I tell them my sign. They say I don't exude typical traits, but I do see a lot of what you're saying in me. I think the reason why maybe people don't see a lot of what you said, what people think that you should, I guess, be or perceive, I think it's because of like how your chart is set up, and also like people's what people think certain things should be. So I guess you could say that most placements have two rulerships. So your Gemini sun, Gemini suns have two modes. They have a day ruler and they have a night ruler. So the day ruler is Saturn, which means that we've seen Geminis be very serious, be very penetrating, and have a lot of concentration, and almost like a hardness to them. All Geminis aren't always funny or are always lighthearted. The next thing is we have like the night ruler of Gemini is Mercury. These people can be more frivolous, light, or more social. You know, you have a day chart, and that's in your 10th house. That means it's at the peak. So your ruler would be Saturn, and it's in Aquarius, and Aquarius can be quite a very, let me make sure it's in Aquarius. I'm sorry, Capricorn. It's a very harsh placement, and that's an exaltation. And so there's a level of seriousness and intenseness that people would not expect from you, but I would expect it from you, because guess what? Saturn also rules Libra, which is the moon, which can be quite, one of the rulers is the moon, which can be quite intense, and it's a well-placed Saturn. And then Leo can be even more intense because it rules like a ferocity. So when I look at your chart, there's extreme ferocity, extreme intenseness, and there could be also like a hardness or a rigidness that maybe people wouldn't account for, because there's certain ways in which you talk, express yourself, and socialize that it can give you, that's why I said it can kind of jam up the way people perceive you versus how you perceive yourself. So like, yeah, people might say, well, I don't see you this way, but that doesn't mean that I'm not this way, which adds more to the frustration, because there are impulsive ways in which you would like to react that gives you a hard time. So like, for instance, your Mercury and your Venus is square your ascendant. What that tells me is there's a certain way in which you talk and you socialize, and you also experiencing your femininity, especially like child-free femininity, in a way that it doesn't really go with forms of your personality, forms of even like your physical body. And so like, even if I look on a medical astrology thing, this could be something like there can be an issue with nervousness, nerve issues, but also hormonal issues, thyroid issues, issues with the neck, the ears, listening, also the lower jaw. So these people might see you in a way that, or circulation, like the blood flowing, something about the blood flowing, being heartfelt, and people might not understand you being heartfelt, or you might have an issue with being heartfelt on your own, because again, your ascendant is almost operating in your own worst enemy, and so this could make people see you or talk to you in a way like doesn't make sense. So there could be like things are at odds with people. They can be how you see yourself and how they see you don't match, you know. But this is a time where you could examine those things, because your natal Venus straight up just squares your ascendant. So there's something away the way you're socializing with life, and also the way you identify yourself, that doesn't match, you know, how your physicality or your physical body or parts of your personality that you show people. There could be parts of your personality that people just really, it's almost like a, not saying you're two-faced, but there's always, it's almost like a parallel that people just really just don't really get. And I honestly feel like you have that because um you had to fight and get through a lot of things. That's why I say I see a lot of bestial or like fighting spirit in your chart, but I don't think people would really assume that about you. But you had to fight to get through a lot of things in your life, and this can also create a split in how people see you and how you see yourself. So yeah, you got like a little Xena warrior, you know, Athena fighting everything chart, but there could be a split in how people see you and how you feel about yourself. And because you have to fight so much, you should take your time about how you feel. You know? All right. Any other questions? Any questions, Jarelli? Yeah, you'll be fine. You just have to take your time and think things through, because it's something about the way you think and the way you act. It's all mitch matchy. But you know, this is definitely a time to think about those things in response to love. And there's parts of your identity, because it's in the 12th house and the South Node is there. There's certain parts of how you existed where you just have to let it go. Like make sure we transition out of themes and modes that no longer serve us, because this is the South Node is things that we're trying to, it's a channel to get to the North Node, but there's things that we have to learn to outgrow. Learn to outgrow, learn to move past. So, yeah, you'll be fine. All right, let's see. I think Topaz is next, but I think he had to leave. But yeah, if anyone else has any questions, or you guys want to put in your birth time and your location, again, if you don't have time, you could just put in your date of birth and your location, and we'll just go over the Venus cycle for you in your chart. But yeah, you just put it in and you'll just go through it. And if you have any other questions, we'll talk about that as well. Okay. We're about to do Topaz real quick. Okay. Let's see. I don't think he left a time. So we'll just look roughly at where he has Leo and the sun. Okay, so he has his sun at 10 degrees in Scorpio. And if I had his time, we would have more information. But this is going to deal, there's aspects where it's going to deal with deep research, police investigation, FBI. You know what? Leave it to Topaz to have this wild things. Interest in astrology, metaphysics, poeticness, dignity, honor, scandals, betrayal, love, sorrow through children, astronomy, divination, botany, music. Okay, so this deals with a lot of like occult knowledge or dealing with the occult in general. And what we would consider, like, I guess you could say, the natural sciences. And it's really going to a channel through Pisces, especially something about him having like quite a unique personality, and also because it hits like a, I guess you could say, the angel Gabriel in the zodiac chart, because there's certain parts of the charts that are ruled by like angels. So this is really going to deal with him having, being careful where he surrounds himself, who he makes friends with, but also just having a unique personality which can garner a lot of friendships, and also just getting divine messages to deal with occultic works. Topaz has it where he could really delve well into occultic dynamics and occultic works and studying things. His Pluto is in Sagittarius, so he would have to be careful because we're starting to get into certain degrees of the animalness of Sagittarius, which can be, again, great for astrology, writing, finances. He could be quite good at sports, but there can be some, no offense, debauchery or shenanigans. So there are certain degrees where it can be quite evil in deeds, or almost like one could argue perverted, where they get into a lot of trouble. And I'm not saying this person is that, but they will have to be careful with the dynamics that they get into, because there's certain parts of the identity where it wants to be shaped through these types of things. So there's also options for truthfulness and benevolence, but you can have trouble with women, medicines, drugs, hallucinations, infections, and mystical healing, because Sagittarius deals with, yes, they do get a lot of luck, but they have to deal with the balancing of the forces. And so I would suggest to Topaz, and I don't have his time, so I can't see what house his Leo is in, but there is a definitely a strong desire to go through certain things to understand who you are. And when you have a Leo, when you have a Scorpio placement, because his sun is in Scorpio, Scorpio is ruled by Hades or Pluto, and Pluto is the lord of hidden wealth. And so we go down into the underworld to hide things. So being able to find hidden parts of wealth, which is the scorpionic things, blessings in disguise, blessings coming from unfortunate situations, also the cloak and the shadow, because it can be like cloaked or concealed. And so there's certain parts of his identity where he's going to have to hide or cloak and conceal, and it does benefit him to hide, conceal, and obscure who he is and to have growth. The downside is because he has certain things that will require him to merge into other people. This could, if he doesn't have like a good sense of direction, this could definitely lead him into trouble of not necessarily making the best friends, or even certain parts of him where spiritually, if we're not careful with how we merge into other people, um it can get us into trouble. Sometimes spiritually it can get us into like dynamics of like psychisms, where people can be like possessed or overrun with spirits or lower energy forces. But no, this is really great because it tells him that he can learn a lot about who he is and a lot about fortifying his identity through just hanging out with other people. Like I'll learn about who I am from other people, and what they are or aren't will reveal to me who I am. Even though his identity is obscured, or there has to be like a sacrifice or surrendering of under the intensity and the pressures of dealing with people. That's funny, Topaz, because I've just started talking about you. But you had to catch your playback. But no, there's an intensity of the force of being under this thing of having to hide or having to fight off the darker forces that allows you to figure out who you are. So meeting people who are criminals, who are in danger. I actually think Topaz could be a police officer or someone who investigates people, or even able to merge through criminal behavior. I definitely can see these type of deep psychological dark aspects playing in. And again, like I said, there's something about merging or pairing with other people that really helps Topaz to examine who they are, and also examine dynamics of humanness, and not only from other people but themselves. So having to share the dynamics of merging with other people and seeing how they live versus like reasoning and how I think and how I'm analyzing these people and who I want to be from this experience with other people. So honestly, Topaz, if I had your time, I would tell you what house it's in, but I don't have it. But yeah, it is a very interesting chart because it's like very very super spy, Harriet the Spy, Carmen Sandiego shenanigans. Something, but it is something about group dynamics that really really shed a light on who this person is. And it's probably because there's some merging or community or familial dynamics that Topaz probably didn't get, that they have to fortify through merging with other people externally. 8 a.m. Okay. Okay, let me see. I grew up closed off. I can tell, and it's almost like a submerging of the identity, because Scorpio, again, it deals with like a shadow, and it also deals with making your own luck. So it isn't necessarily, it deals with a blessing in disguise, but it's a blessing in disguise that's made through Mars, or made through a sheer force of pushing the willpower so hard on a physical level that it creates its own luck. It creates its own abundance. It can also deal with intense soul experiences that creates abundance that way. So like the reason why it deals with like forms of inheritance or blessings in disguise. So like it could deal with something like, I didn't get my first house until my mom died. That is a very traumatic response, but you do get abundance. Like you get instantly something from suffering. And I know people don't think of Scorpio like that, but it is true. So like they either have to forcibly push and persevere into getting luck, or they get abundance or hidden blessings. They can search out and find the blessings. They can go find people or find where abundance or hidden wealth is. But it is also such an intensive or intensive spiritual response that or refining process that they can force their own way, force their own luck, or dynamics where they get blessings in disguise, things that should not have worked out that will work out. And if any other sign probably had this, it's like, what? So that's why the next sign, like, there's a dissension of signs, but the next sign after Scorpio is Sagittarius, where it's a spiritual aspect where the spirit, the universal spirit, creates luck for a Sagittarius. That is not the same thing as a Scorpio, where they have to fight for luck, push and persevere, or like a Capricorn that listens to the material realm to create the luck. So these are like how they all deal with forms of like aspects of judgment or criticism or certain forms of refinement, but they don't do it the same way. But these are the, when we go down from like Libra down all the way up to Pisces, these are judgment placements. So this is what we consider like the underworld, where they have to go down, they have to receive judgment, they have to fight. These are like what they call the dissension signs. Some people consider them like the demonic signs because, like, and I don't necessarily say that, but they do have to fight quite a bit. It's definitely a different dynamic. It is not the same thing as like something else. Definitely way different. Okay, let me see something real quick. Yeah, so your Leo is in the 9th house. So yeah, this is the 9th and 8th house. So this, it really is going to deal with like forms of your sense of faith, your will to go on. Also, forms of education, religion, spiritual practices, also court issues. But there's a little bit of it that could dip back down into 8th house dynamics, which deals with like danger, ghosts, magic, inheritance, dynamics from your parents, things that you inherit, creativity from a more metaphysical or spiritual dynamic, being transformed by your relationships, intense transformation. So like relationships, like we told you before, whoever you get into relationship dynamics, whether they be friends, whether they, all types of things, lovers, whatever, this will be a very intense refining process, because Scorpios also deal with being transformed through the passion, or having passion that is so strong that it transforms people. But passion is suffering, and so like dealing with forms of suffering or dealing with intense relationship dynamics, that it causes you to transform, change, or better yourself. But this is where the judgment comes in, because the judgment will tell you how you're going to deal, like you on your own sense of judgment of dealing with yourself, how you're going to deal with these types of intense things. That's why some people, when they go through fucked up situations, they never the same, which can be a good or a bad thing. Sometimes people grow from certain experiences, and then some people, they fold under them, and they it's hard for them to get the refinement that they need from the experiences, because these are very human, physical experiences. And Scorpio is a physical sign that requires physical exertion, and everyone doesn't have the fighting spirit. So like when I talk about Jarelli's, when I look at her chart, there's aspects of her chart that deals with very dark psychological hidden themes, and can also deal with possibly abusive things that she could have fought through, or having to fight that leads to like family or home life. When I look at Topaz, he has very dark scorpionic things that deal with identity and having to hide who you are, hide your identity. You cannot say who I am. It is very hidden on a deep psychological level. And as matter of fact, what's interesting, both you and Jarelli, I think y'all both have like 12th house like identity things like that are very, very similar, of like hidden identities, hidden aspects of who you are that people just don't get, they don't see. It is very, very interesting, because I do notice like sometimes when I do readings, sometimes the type of people with certain like energy signatures that pop up in the chart, it be the same. It'd be the same. So like that's very, very interesting. But yeah, deep psychological hidden aspects in a chart of just not being able to express yourself, being who you are, or saying what things are. And so this can really affect, again, your sense of faith, your will to go in, and who you are. But it's because it's like you guys have to deal with things that you have to fight for so hard. And I don't want y'all to feel bad about it, because I understand technically there's parts of like Libra into Leo. It's called the fiery way, or the via combusta, where we're descending straight into the underworld, where people really have to like knuckle up and scrap, which is beautiful because it again, it allows the spirit to really fight and persevere when they want to. I think the bad part is when we become trapped into these types of themes, and we don't know when to stop fighting, when to move on, things that we just have to just keep heading past. And it is interesting. It's definitely interesting. Me being queer caused me to isolate myself for protection because I don't feel safe. I wonder if that's the main issue. It could be, but to be honest, okay, let me just explain it like this so people can understand. There's astrology is just the occultic science of like what's in the heavens and what's on earth, and we're studying matter and how it's going to present itself in certain forms and certain patterns. There's a lot of ways in which people can express the energy. People do have an option to express the energy in a multitude of ways, and it's usually not always what people think. So for instance, like Topaz, okay, you being queer could be a thing, but no offense, you could just end up being like a spy, which is another way that this could do. A spy or a secret agent, or a bitch, you could be Batman, having a whole hidden identity. Same with Jarelli. Like Jarelli could have been a whole superhero and no one would know it, because part of the hidden identity or the hidden dynamics or whatever. I know people love superheroes, but honestly, superheroes will probably be what would they call a descending sign, or the hidden or the underworld, where they have to put on fake monikers, fake identities. No one knows who they are. That would be, honestly, most superheroes will probably be the signs that are in the underworld or the descending signs. So no one would know who they are, and people love them so much. But typically superheroes deal with underworld themes all the time, like very evil things, very messed up themes, very harsh realities. That's why when you read a superhero backstory, you be like, man, messed up. Whether it's like abandonment, alienation, being the last person of your race, like things that are very hard or traumatic. These are underworld things or soul refinement things, or things that require your soul is going to judge you on a physical realm of how you're going to deal with this. So there are certain souls that are here on a physical realm that they're going to be judged about how they're going to deal with these things in a physical form. They want to experience hardness or like these things to who am I in a very intense way. I agree. I do have a side of me that I keep to myself that others don't necessarily see. Yeah. So like when I see, like, yeah, right, Jarelli, when I see a chart, I'm like, there's a lot of things like I see where you like people don't see me, like, and I'm like, and it makes sense because there's a way that you express yourself and people don't really know, they don't really get it. And I have a non-family related issue that I had to fight through. See, so these are like things like people really have to, they can be quite intense and quite dangerous that people really have to fight, but they need these types of energies or these types of placements. By Topaz. But yeah, these are very intense, very strong like themes. And I know people have an issue with certain signs, or they don't like this sign, or blah blah, but all of the signs have a thing for a reason. All of the signs have a purpose and a grand design and a way in which they function, that they experience themselves in this realm, and it's very, very distinct. It's very distinct and has a very it's very specific, and unless people are going to like deeply study, I can understand why people don't get it or they think it's weird. But unless people are really going to deeply study, but very interesting. Okay, so now we're going to go to, I think Dark Horse was next. Dark Horse, you still there? So I'm about to do Dark Horse next. Okay. So yeah, I'm about to do you next. Let's see. All right, let me make sure this I put this in correctly. You scroll back up. Okay. For showing up late at work. No, it's fine. Y'all are fine. You know, I'm just trying to make sure I'm doing the putting your information in right. See, this is so interesting. Okay, y'all really have like a strong kind of pull, and I do, like I said, I do notice that like whoever feels like they're going to go, there's like a strong like energy that comes in through the charts that's kind of similar or the same way. But this one deal with like for you, this one deal with things around your home life and your family, or things around mother or your mother or women who can bear children, things around the crowd, nourishing and feeling sheltered or protected. It also have issues, things around like your stomach or digestive health. And as far as in your son, this would again have a strong tie to health, but it can also have a strong tie to work. But this will also have a strong tie to possibly even slander. You know, someone trying to slander you or you slandering someone else. Animals, small animals, or like pets. But it can even have a tie around people speaking or talking about you in certain ways. So honestly, you have a in general people like you. You have a very refined nature that people really like about you. So, but yeah, that could be a thing around like lying or some type of falsity. Something is not true. And it may not be like horrible, but it could be something very slight. You're having stomach troubles right now. Honestly, if it's really that bad, well, I don't know what you have, but if it's just nausea or something, I would tell you to take a little apple cider vinegar and some water and take that. Just drink it like a shot. Um, but yeah, you could also do like ginger or turmeric to like try to relax your stomach. But yeah, I definitely do see that as a thing of like having to work for love or work for a physical body or having to heal your body right now. It is a strong current of like health and healing. And that could be something where um there's like an aspect of you trying other people or like you trying to like detox or take care of yourself, which could be a bit hard right now. It could be a bit hard. And this can even go into like dynamics with your lovers as well. Your lovers socializing or even like buying or selling things like, I guess I don't want to say gambling because gambling could be a light thing, but issues with children, issues with lovers, even like issues with like either being proud of your children or having your parents be proud of you. These could be issues around these things as well. especially since you like your Venus is in Scorpio, which again is in detriment, but it can also deal with like intense dynamics in love, transformation in love. Um, it can also deal with being very possessive. Or people just probably trying to steal from you or take things from you. People act in a very like weird, um, anemic dynamic, which they can try to steal from you, but you still get help anyway. It's weird. It's like people be trying to start trouble with you, but it don't really work how they think it is. You know. But it really just seemed like a very strong physical thing. I actually would advise you to really try to take care of your health as much as possible. Especially since, no offense, your sun is in Libra, so the sun and Libra don't really like vibe with each other because they want two different things. So it's not horrible, but like the sun is hot and dry and Libra is like warm and moist, and it's starting to get colder. It's going into, I guess you could say, what the winter months are, and it's starting to descend, like I said, descend into the underworld. So it doesn't, there's parts of it where it just, they just want two different things. So where like Libra wants to be more, even though it's a masculine sign, it wants to be more receptive, but the sun wants to be extroverted and it wants to express or exude a physical, some type of physical warmth or force, whereas like Libra don't. So there could be a push and pull between external and internal dynamics, which this is why honestly the Libra people with predominant Libra placements are wishy-washy, because there's a push and pull of forces where they're struggling to agree with, and this is why they always be in the central drama. So being conflicted, yes, because if you look at the progression of the air signs, you have Gemini, then you have Libra, then you have Aquarius. So Gemini deals with taking in information, sharing information. So taking in all of this external stimulation. And then Libra moves on to points of refining the information or refining the physical matter around it. That's why it's low-key ruled by, it has like a lesser degree of Saturn, but Venus as well. And so taking this information and making things around it, also balancing out. And so sometimes they can be contradictory. So if everyone's going this way or trying to provide balance to the physical matter around itself. And then we move on to Aquarius, which it deals with like a hardening or a crystallization of the information, but also a detachment, getting away from it, separating, creating a distance from it. When to move on, have a sense of faith, go forward, travel, direction. And if you get stuck somewhere between the middle one with Libra, getting to what we consider like Aquarius, we can have issues with being conflicted. That's why sometimes the air signs, they be kind of all over the place. But it's just an issue in the progression of information that they're receiving, particularly Libra, because like it's in a placement or a planet that has a different ideas about this physical plane versus how Libra thinks about this physical plane. So they have a different way. Do you have any recommendations on Father Hunger you spoke about on the first stream? You just reminded me that yes, I do. I actually have some books saved up for Father Hunger, and I plan on reading them, but I would suggest them to y'all because it's like, why not? But I have one for women and men, but I'll put both of them in here. I have to go to a different app in a minute, but I'll put both of them, or whichever, the ones that I have, I put them in here if you want to read on how fathers affect girls and their importance of with little girls and why they're important. And if you want to read one about boys, so I actually read both, because not only does it help me with astrology and dealing with the psychological aspects that people could have from having, when I look in their chart, like they'll have a missing father or a father that's weird, like something weird going on, but also just relationships with people in general. So if you meet someone and then like they might say that that father passed away or something like that, or they might have weird dynamics with their father, it actually helps you to be more empathetic about what they're going through as a person and how you interact with them. Not saying you have to put up with BS or people just being cruel to you, absolutely not, but it does help you to understand what people are going through. But yeah, I'll do it. I'll look it up on the app, because I have a whole nother app about I'll see if I can find it really quickly, but to be honest, I have a lot of books saved. But if push come to shove, if I can't find it, um just hit my work number. It's in the description box, and it'll actually give me more time to look for the titles. But I definitely have them for boys and girls if you want to read it. But yeah, the air signs can be conflicted because they're trying to take in information and then also like use the information to make affect change around them. So that's why when people be like, you're so contrarian, or if someone say up, you go left, but it's because they're trying to take information and balance it out somewhere. But it can make them less popular. It can make them annoying. On top of the fact that Libra also has a dynamic where it wants to merge too. It wants to blend in. So there's a push and pull of wanting to merge versus wanting to offset things. And I've seen that with particularly Libras. Because the Aquarius don't necessarily feel like they have to merge. By that point, they don't feel like they have to merge. But like Libras can have issues with merging. Low-key Geminis, but Geminis kind of run around a bit. But like they want to blend in, but they also want to offset certain things. So, and I think that's the dynamic of like, I guess you could say justice or fairness or the laws of cause and effect. They want to implement dynamics like that. But it don't always go well. That's why they get into trouble. But they make great lawyers. They make great lawyers. They can do really, like Libras can do good at live performance. And they also can do good at like art and beauty and taking the information and like balancing it, making things balanced. Because beauty, one dynamic of beauty is balance. Like evenness. You know, nothing is doing too much. You know, and they're really good at that. So I see a lot of Libras be like hairdressers, barbers, being effect. They really good at it. You know. So yeah, that's what I would suggest. I would suggest Dark Horse to really try to take care of your health right now. And just watch the whole slander, how people are talking about you or how you're talking about them in these types of dynamics. You know, because it looks like your Mercury is like conjunct Ketu, so there could be parts of your voice where you struggle to speak up for yourself or say what things are. So it could be like losing voice or saying, but that don't mean you let people play you. Yes, yeah, speak up, because it's a dynamic where, you know, things can happen. But that's why sometimes when people are like abusive or evil, it can kind of like, it's almost like justice indirectly hits them. So because it's how your chart's set up. It's kind of, I'm trying to explain it the best way I can, but it's the flow of the chart. So it's like somebody be evil and then it's like bam. But that can even be on you too. Like you try to be slick, but usually it's other people, but they try to be like evil. Nope, it don't work. It don't work. I have a question regarding that. Okay, what's your question? What's your question? Yeah, because sometimes people have real a strong protection. Actually trying to get back into art to express myself. Okay. Yeah, no, that actually, you getting back into art would not be a bad idea. I'm struggling with expressing personal feelings. Okay. But yeah, no, that's there's something about the voice that your chart has it where it gets snatched out, but there could also be um dynamics that is, I'm gonna just say it could be hormonal as well, because Venus rules like the kidneys and the hormones. So you do have quite a bit of planets that deal with like hormones. And so I'm gonna take it like Dark Horse, you're a male, so you probably, okay, you will probably need to also deal with dynamics of hormonal things that goes on with you. So issues around like the kidneys, issues um around the liver, the gonads. And so I guess, okay, if you don't mind, I'm going to just say it, but I actually think that you should probably do some hormonal recalibrations to help you. You know, there's certain things hormonally that it's not horrible, but because there are certain strengths, but there's also like certain things I see in your chart that just, if you could just, you'll be fine. You know, because it like there's certain, I kind of is weird, but there's certain organs that I just need you to just really just like lock into place, and you can change a lot of things if you understand astrology, even like on the medical standpoint, because astrology has like a medical section where you could deal. If you could just, well, I'm telling you, you would not have these problems. And there's certain things I would ask you, but I would not ask you. You would have to get like a health reading from me, but I wouldn't ask in a public place like this unless you care, because I don't like to be getting into people. Like I said, I don't want people to feel like they're getting outed somewhere, or asking very deeply personal or touchy placements. So, but there are certain things that I feel like hormonally you need help. Your body needs a little extra boost. You know, it's nothing wrong with you, but if you could give your body assistance somewhere, some of the issues you have you won't have, or it will improve it. You know, because you just need like a refinement. It happens to some people because, to be honest, like there's certain even things even generationally, like when I see certain things in certain generations, I see like certain things like is a generational health problem that they're going to have to overcome. And it doesn't make them like, it's not anything like they're doing intentionally. But yeah, that would explain why I feel tired all the time. Yeah, because there's something, to be honest, there's another component where you actually need more things to just keep it pushing, you know, because I'm gonna be honest, when I look at your thing, I see issues with like a cellular turnover. There's certain things that you would just need to like pump out your system, like, and you need it. And that's probably also why it's hard for you to speak up, talk, express yourself, how you feel. It's very rough for you because the chart also tells you like what's also medically wrong with you as well, or right, because it also tells you the organs that are like working, or things that are working in a way that's unforeseen. Like it's kind of like it shouldn't work, but it's gonna work because this is here and that's there, which is like, that's weird, but they're fine, you know. But yeah, no, you would probably need something, I'm gonna be honest, like almost like a detoxification, you know. You would have to work on detoxification, and you would have to work on diet. Something about what you're eating and your cellular turnover and how you're pumping like toxins out of your system is affecting a lot of things, like your brain, your energy levels, amongst other things that probably people don't want to talk about on a more open thing, but you know what I'm getting at when I'm talking about like bedroom dynamics, you know. So you would actually need to do kind of like both of those, and it'll be better for you. Well, yeah, I'm trying to, cause it's like real, like I'm not trying to blast nobody, and I don't know, cause this can even be like even skin problems, hair problems, like issues with like acne, issues with the skin, you know, issues with like I told you the bedroom, you know, But it can also affect you saying how you feel, you know. But yeah. I have Asperger's. Okay. How can I say this? When I see certain things in the chart, like with Asperger's, there's almost like a, how can I say, almost like a neurotoxin or like a neural chemical reaction that happens, you know, that people have. So there could be certain things like turning over certain things, um, being allergic to certain things, even because your brain health is directly tied to your stomach health and your digestive health and what you eat. So you probably are eating things that you're high key, low key allergic to. And if I could be quite frank, um, I would not doubt it. The whatever you're eating that's giving you stomach problem is also probably triggering your Asperger's even more. You're having more social problems by this point. So, also, guys, donate to my Cash App. You know, I just put it in the link in the chat, but feel free to donate to my Cash App. But also, if you want a reading, you want me to type up certain things for medical astrology, I do medical astrology and readings. If you want to do other things, but yes, like I do all of those things, not only just birthday, I do romance, career, zodiacal, and I even do some light astrocartography or relocation astrology. But yeah, like that's, I wouldn't be surprised that your social interactions are getting harder, or there could be more things like that. So, but yeah. Hey, Majestic. That's why I dislike my big three. Sean, what's your big three? Like your big three probably not that bad. It's really what's the chart flowing. I don't want people to start negging on themselves. It's really the flow, guys. Like I want y'all to understand that there's literally a flow to getting certain things. Like it's the chart is locking and flowing in specific ways. I don't want y'all to think like everything a sign is just evil. Like no. It's a flow. It's a lot of things. Not only the flow, the aspects, how strong a planet is. So certain people have strong planets, some people don't. Some people have something that's called peregrine, which means that their planet is rogue or it reacts in a certain way that's very unique. And so they would have to figure out their own ideas or themes around these types of things. So it doesn't mean like you don't follow a normal pattern. You got your own thing going on. Uh, if you're a Libra, your chart, you better in defense than offense. Um, I guess one could say that. But like Libras are also can be quite cunning, low key when they want to be. So they can be quite slick. So I think it's both. Like they can be quite slick. Stay humble. My birthday just passed. Well, happy belated birthday. I've been very expressive, but getting hit left and right financially. It's probably where your stuff is. You know? Going to get a birth reading from you next month. Okay. But yeah, because I also do the readings over the phone, but I also type up reports on people. So if y'all want to type that report, let me know. And I literally start going through your stuff, and it's very old school, but I write down all the stuff and then I type it up. But yeah, let me know. Going to get a birth reading. Okay. Taurus Sun, Sag Rising, Libra Moon. That's not horrible. You know? That's not horrible at all. But it does mean that your rising sign and your moon sign are more compatible than your sun sign. In a sense of like fire and air likes each other. You know? There's certain like elements that vibe with each other. So But yeah, guys, I'm about to get off here in a couple of minutes. You guys have any more questions before we end the live? Any more questions? Okay, guys. All right. So, if you guys are interested in a reading, phone numbers in the description. Also, my email is in the description. I'm gonna try to remember to make a post for the father hunger books for both girls and boys. I'll probably put that in a community tab everywhere, so that way y'all can get it. But no, I think it's real important that y'all like have that information. How much for a romance reading? It depends if you want to just do it over the phone or you want me to literally just type up everything. But Majestic, if you just, my phone number is in the description. If you just hit me up, you can hit me up even right after this stream because I'm about to get off. But if you just hit me up and just tell me what you want to do you want like a PDF? Because a PDF be like $20. Like I do PDFs, like I could just do a little report and then type that up. But just let me know if you want me to just sit over the phone and really like start breaking shit down for you. That's $50. And then if you want like birth readings are a bit longer, more extensive because it's the whole thing. But depending what you want me to do, I will talk about it, And I do work with people with payments and stuff like that because I know some people be like, I'll pay this here and then I'll get this and I'll pay the second part here. So just let me know, But yeah, no problem, Rex. But yeah, just text me after this. But all right, guys, since you guys don't have any more questions, good luck do this Venus retrograde. Again, like I said, I'll be typing up some information on Venus and its dynamic with us on Earth and what it's supposed to do. And all the people on Patreon is going to have that information, all the stuff that I type up or notes that I write out about Venus. If you're interested in joining my Patreon, you can. I also will probably be restructuring it too. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, peace and love, guys. Hopefully you guys are doing okay during this retrograde period, okay? Bye. Oh, also, I probably will be going live on Thursdays. So next Thursday we'll probably be talking about different things. It says Cash App is experiencing high volume. What the F? What? I don't think you lying, stay humble, but they said what now?
Blowing up the spot.
Okay.
But we appreciate all the people who've been donating to BMORE and Dummies Cauldron. The type of work she does is very important, and she doesn't really brag about herself, which you shouldn't when you're in a spiritual space, but we will do it for her.
Yeah, I don't know why it's saying that.
You also have a PayPal account if you want to give everybody your PayPal email.
Okay.
That's a secondary where they can donate. And then also there's the Patreon. And also people who follow BMORE on Patreon that actually put in money once a month on Patreon, y'all get discounts when it comes to the chart readings. $10 and up tier though. They get the discounts pertaining to astrology readings and different things like that. So she's about to give y'all her email to the PayPal.
Okay, hold on, guys. I don't know why it's saying that.
And while you're still doing that, you say next Thursday, are you doing part 3 of this or are you moving on to another subject?
I don't know. Do you guys want to do some more Venus work or do y'all want to move on to something else?
My opinion, I think y'all should just now start getting PDFs on your Venus and stuff and just move on to the next subject for the next live stream on Thursday. But this is the Dummies Cauldron. Y'all decide what y'all want to do.
But yeah, we might just start talking about the supermoon. The supermoon that's That's should be coming towards the end of this month. So that's probably what we'll start doing. So.
Oh, that's your email?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you don't want to give that particular email?
Yeah. Okay. That's my baby.
Well, next time create an alternative email for your
I will.
PayPal. Okay.
Trying to link card to Cash App. Okay, so yeah, can we move on to the next subject unless some people miss out? Sometimes people just have to miss out. No offense.
Well, technically they're not missing out because they can go back and listen.
They can.
Just from my perspective, they'll go back and listen to other students. They'll be like, oh, I want this done. And then they'll just pay for a PDF.
That's true, because I can just type up, but it's only $20.
Right, so they're not missing out on anything. And they could go back and listen to see what they're paying for.
That's true. So, no, we'll probably start talking about the supermoon in Pisces, which will be towards the end of this month. And honestly, the retrograde too, because it's going to be like a Mercury retrograde as well.
And next Thursday is before August 30th, right?
Huh?
Next Thursday, is it before August 30th? Because it's the 24th right now.
Let's see. Yeah, it's on the 31st.
So that's afterwards. So then I think
the 31st of August.
You may have to on the 29th give like maybe upload a short video to let them know what the supermoon's going to be about. Because that way on the 31st, then you could just talk about what's the lingering effects. Because you said, with moon, especially full moons, they last a couple of days. But, it'll have a little appetizer. Because the supermoon is on the 30th, so y'all better prepare.
I think it's on the 31st.
It's on the 31st? Let's double check. Supermoon. It's gonna be the brightest on
the 30th.
On the 30th.
I guess it depends where they live then.
But I mean, you still schedule. I think you stay with your schedule, of course, for the 31st. I was just saying, like maybe you'll do a little video, a 5-minute video, just explaining for them to get their stuff ready for Thursday, to prepare for the supermoon.
Yeah, cause Pisces is so interesting, especially depending how it's aspected. It's actually good for any type of luck or gambling at any time, especially depending what you're going to do spiritually under the phases of the moon, which is an interesting concept, because there's dynamics of like people who do like astrological magic or astrological manifestations. Like they basically follow the moon cycles or the planetary cycles, and then that's when they do things. They do things very specifically. So, but Pisces is a very interesting thing, especially if you're going to make or do anything that's permitting for like luck. So,
and also please attach your email to when you text BMORE and let her know if you sent $20 for the PDF versus the donation. Make sure you clarify, because if it's just a donation, we love y'all, we appreciate it. And then if you want the Venus reading on business and stuff like that for $20, make sure you specify, and also text her with your email saying, oh, this is so-and-so, and I sent $20 to your Cash App because I would like a personalized reading, report.
Yeah, just let me know, guys. But the number is in the description box below.
As you can see, I'm BMORE's financial counselor. No, I'm just kidding.
So silly.
I'm her manager.
You're so silly. But all right, guys, I'll see you next Thursday, and it'll probably be like around the same time. So we'll talk about the moon and stuff like that too. All right. Can I Zell? You know what? Stay humble. Just text me, and we'll work out something off of here.
Actually, email her right when you're done with this, and she's gonna send you an email to the PayPal.
Yeah, just hit me after this, okay? Stay humble, whether it's like an email or a text, whatever.
Did you give them that number already?
It's in the description.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So yeah, just text me and we'll work something out. Since you having trouble, I'm having trouble, we'll figure it out, okay? All right, guys. See you next Thursday.